Hey everyone! Welcome to part 5 of my Guilds of Ravnica Set review. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Boros and the Izzet. They're multicolored cards, that is. If you haven't watched the prior parts of the series, I recommend at least going back and watching the first episode I did, at least the beginning of it, because I explain how I am analyzing these things, which is primarily for limited. For draft, I'm not good at standard. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to be focusing on. But today we're talking about the Boros and Izzet cards. In retrospect, before I set this up, I realized I probably should have lumped Boros and Celestia together, because I think those are two more closely interwoven things, and there isn't that much overlap between the Boros and the Izzet, but I mean, I gotta save the best for last, and Celestia are the best. Fight me. But yeah, well, jumping right into it. We just got we got Boros's mythic, which is Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice, who is 2 red and white for a 2/5 with flying, with Lunter, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose up to 1 target creature you control. Until end of turn, that creature gets +2/+0, gains trample if it's red, and gain vigilance if it's white. Okay, this is a very good card. On its own, it blocks as a 2/5 flying for 4/4, which I'd be interested in, and assuming, I think most of the time you will just be giving its bonuses to itself, and the fact that it attacks as a 4/5 flying mentor vigilance trample is just great. There's not much to say about this. There's not much subtlety to Aurelia. She's just flat out very good. Yeah, no, she's beating in the air and will quickly, sure, it's only 2/5 on the defense, but you also get to hold back on the defense because it does have vigilance. I could also see maybe pumping another creature, because if you want to have another creature mentor Aurelia to pump her up a little bit, you can also do that. But yeah, no, Aurelia is just very powerful. It's a strong incentive to be in Boros, and definitely worth going out of your way to splash for. Even in like the Izzet deck where you're not getting as much value out of Mentor, even if you're don't have the Mentor synergies, she's enough of a house on her own. Next up is Beacon Bolt. It is 1 blue and red for sorcery. Beacon Bolt deals damage to target creature equals the number of instant and sorcery cards you own in exile and in your graveyard. It has Jumpstart. Obviously, you do need to have some instant sorceries, and the Izzet deck is going to have that. But that said, this is a creature removal spell that fires twice. It's at sorcery speed, which is unfortunate, and it does require a little bit of setup, but that is essentially getting 2 removal spells when you need it is real nice. The fact that it also counts things in exile for things they've already jump-started is real nice. But yeah, one thing to note that it isn't one of those, it's like, oh, by its own it only does 1 point of damage, because it doesn't count itself. It will do 0 points of damage if you don't have anything in your graveyard, so you do need some support there. But that said, if you're running Izzet, you should at least have a few to make it good. And even if this is just like a 3 mana, do 2 damage something, and you get to do that twice, I'm fine with that. Like, that's just solid, and it's only up from there. Next up is Beam Splitter Mage, which is red-green for a 2/2, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Beam Splitter Mage, if you control 1 or more other creatures that spell a target, choose one of those creatures, copy that spell. The copy targets the chosen creature. This is kind of like a Zada Heat. It's like the worst Zada, which replicated it for all of your creatures. That said, it's only used so your opponent can't use it to like double up on like removal spells or anything. But I mean, it's a 2/2 for 2, which is fine. That said, I don't think the effect is that powerful. Like, sometimes it'll be situationally useful, but I don't think it's super great. But I mean, you could do worse with a 2/2 for 2 that will sometimes give you something more, but for the most part, I feel like this will just end up being a bear. Next up is a Boros Challenger, which is red-white for 2/3 with Mentor, and you may be 2 red-white to give it +1/+1 until end of turn. Well, it's a 2/3 for 2, which I'm into. Being 2 power in the Boros deck is nice because it more easily holds Mentor counters. It itself has Mentor, and it can get bigger to mentor larger things if you need to late game. And I mean, I would have been down for just a 2/3 for 2. But I mean, throwing on Mentor and a self-pump ability just pushes this to be just real nice 2-drop for that deck. Not one you want to splash for, because when you're splashing or any of the like hard to cast cards, you kind of have to ask yourself, I've talked about this before, is like, if I don't get this on turn 2, how much worse does this get? And this one's fine not on 2, but its main power is on 2. Maybe 3, but so it's not really one you want to splash for in like Selesnya or something, even though it would be very efficient at getting those counters. Next up is Chance for Glory, which is 1 red and a white for an instant. Creatures you control gain indestructible. Take an extra turn after this one. At the beginning of that turn's end step, you lose the game. Okay, so this is kind of like, it's kind of like a Glorious End type effect from Amonkhet, where it just ended the turns, you would cast on your opponent's upkeep, and then you would get to do all that. That said, like, this is nice, where it's you can do like an Alpha Strike, you give all yourself indestructible, you block, you give yourself indestructible, you hopefully kill enough stuff and you can fight in. Yeah, no, it's I could see this being very good. Like, the thing about the giving your creatures indestructible kind of like was nice to like get in there. I never actually got around to playing with Glorious End and Amonkhet, but the thing is about these kind of cards is that they're very situational. Like, the thing is with taking extra turn cards is that normally like your baseline is like, if you don't have a good situation with attackers take advantage of it, at least you can kind of cycle it and for a card, and this one you can't do because you'll lose the game and there's no like Platinum Iberian in this format. But yeah, no, Chance for Glory, I'm actually not sure where I fall on this one. I feel like I feel the fact that unlike Glorious End, because it doesn't give your opponent a chance to untap, makes it a lot better. And the fact that you can do this like in the middle of combat while attacking and take out some of their creatures for the second strike through the next turn makes it a lot more powerful. So, you know, I'm pretty high on Chance for Glory. I could imagine that only really the Boros decks wants it, but yeah, no, I like it. It's also nice and cheap, so you can use it with other effects and whatnot. So, yeah. Next up is Crackling Drake, which is kind of like the highly restrictive Izzet card that you're not going to be splashing for, but it's blue, blue, red, red for a star 4 with flying, and its power is equal to the number of instant sorcery cards in your graveyard, so it has an Enigma Drake, but when it enters battlefield, draw a card. I mean, in all the formats Enigma Drake's been in, it's been just a real solid flyer. Like, this is 1 more mana, but would I pay 1 more mana with a bit more restrictive mana to also draw a card? Yeah, no. This is just a sweet payoff for the Izzet deck. It's a nice big flyer and will grow quite fast. The fact, and also I didn't say this when I said that, but it also counts your cards in exile, so it isn't a non-bow of Jumpstart. So obviously you're not like splashing for this, although this effect you probably wouldn't want in your other colors, but I'm really high in Crackling Drake. That's a good reason to be in Izzet. They did a really good job with like kind of like pushing these like highly restrictive cost creatures at uncommon to really be like, yes, I really like, these are a reason to be in that color and a good payoff to be heavily in that cover and not splashing too much. Next up is Deafening Clarion. But it's 1 red and a white to either, for sorcery, choose 1 or both. Deafening Clarion does 3 damage to each creature, or creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. Okay, so this one's kind of interesting. They're like 2 very different effects. Would I pay 3 mana to deal 3 damage to each creature? Yes. Sweltering Suns was a good card. Anger of the Gods is a good card. And, I don't mind doing 3 damage, and I wouldn't mind running that card. It's like a small wipe. It does kind of have a nombo where it's like the Boros creatures aren't really the creatures that'll survive that. Like, across the board. Like, yes, Lesnia has like a lot of small creatures too, but it is a board wipe. You get to choose when it goes off, which gives you a lot of control over it. I'm not sure how useful that second mode is. I'm leaning toward it isn't, but I guess, like, thing is, like, you kill the board, and then you can, then when you, like, have a few big guys, you swing in with lifelink, but I think for the most part, you'll, like, be casting this in Boros when you're, like, really far back on the board state, because, like, not much of your stuff in Boros is going to survive this. I'm fine on that, but I'm just confused by the second option. Like, the first option's strong enough, and I like that effect, but the second option just confuses me. And doesn't feel like it's super useful or super relevant. Like, obviously it'll be situationally, it'll be useful where you have, like, some Boros 4/4s and whatnot, and you kill everything, your kill your bonus things, give your 2 4/4s lifelink, and get a 16-point life swing. But, and that's like a nice upside on it, but you're not playing it for that second effect. Next up is Firemind's Research, which is red and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a charge counter on Firemind's Research. And then you may pay 1 and a blue and remove 2 charge counters from Firemind's Research to draw a card. You may pay 1 and a red and remove 5 charge counters from Firemind's Research to deal 5 damage to a target. This feels like a constructed build around me card and not for limited. Because let's think about this. Okay. The first mode. Okay, so you pay blue and a red. You're paying 2 mana, which, 2 drop slot is fine. And this is also assuming you get it on turn 2. Drawing this late game is atrocious. So you have to pay that. You have to play 2 other cards before you even get up to the point where you can draw a card to replace itself, so that requires 2 instant sorceries to pay itself, and an investment of 4 mana just to cycle this thing. And then 2 more spells and 2 more mana to even just draw a card. Congratulations, you just built the worst divination ever. And in limited, I don't think it's reasonable to expect more than that. And then the one in the red to remove 5 counters from it, that's just way too slow. This is not good in limited. Maybe if you're, like, doing things like chain ops together and stuff, and, like, constructed maybe, or other shenanigans like that, but limited is not the place for this card. It's an enchantment that does nothing to affect the board state, and it does even, well, the last version detects board state, but, like, an age later. Yeah, this isn't good. Yeah, no. Bad. It requires too many instant sorceries. Like, you'd prefer, like, another instant sorcery for your other enablers rather than this. I might be more into it if they remove the mana cost on the abilities. If it was like, you can charge this up and then, like, you have these charges to unleash and not requiring mana, then I might be a little bit more interested in it, but not as is. Next is Garrison Sergeant, which is 3 red and a white for a 3/3 that has double strike as long as you control a gate. Okay, a 5 mana 3/3, if you don't have control of gate, is bad. It's very bad. A 5 mana 3/3 double strike, is fine, especially if you add in, like, mentor stuff, if you can mentor it up, although it is 3 power, so it's going to be a little bit harder to mentor up. So I think, like, if you have, like, at least, like, 3 or 4 gates, and to the point where, like, you'll have a gate 75% of the time by turn 5, which isn't unreasonable with, like, about 4 gates or so. Yeah, no, then I think this is a perfectly reasonable 5-drop, but if you don't if you only have like 3 or less gates, I wouldn't run this just because it's just so bad if it doesn't have double strike. So that's about where I'm at on it. Next up is a classic. It's everyone's friends, Goblin Electromancer. It's a blue and a red for a 2/2 with instant sorceries cost 1 less to cast. I mean, it's a 2-drop that's relevant, and has a very good effect for the Izzet deck. I don't think other decks would want that effect as much to want to splash for their 2-drop. It's probably better off just to have your mana be better, to just have an extra land to cast those spells if you're not in Izzet. But for the Izzets, like wanting to jumpstart multiple spells a turn, this could be real good. And it's kind of like your bread and butter 2-drop, so yeah. I mean, it's Goblin Electromancer. We've been through the song and dance before. Next up is Hammer Dropper. It is 2 red and a white for a 5/2 with Mentor. Okay, 4 mana 5/2 with Mentor, or 4 mana 5/2 I'm not into. And getting Mentor, honestly, this just feels like that one, like the 3/1 for 3 in white, like the first card we looked at, where it's it's a 5/2 for 4 on death. Give another creature that attacked +1/+1/+1 counter. And I don't like that effect. This will trade for something, and I mean, obviously if they don't have anything, it's bad, but if you're swinging this turn 5, and if they don't have anything yet that has 2 power to kill it, you're already winning. You would have been winning regardless of what 4-drop you had. So I am just not high on Hammer Dropper at all. It just doesn't survive anything. Hypnothissizzle. Hippo the Sizzle. Hippo the Sizzle is 3 blue and a red for an instant. Draw 2 cards. Then you may discard a non-land card. When you do, it deals 4 damage to target creature. Yep, I like this. Instant speed is real nice for this kind of effect. I mean, 5 mana Divination's not good. Divination at instant speed is an effect I'm willing to pay 4 mana for. But also the fact that it ends up being, even if it's in many ways it's kind of 5 mana, draw, loot. It's draw a card, loot, and deal 4 to something. And all those things together are just real nice. And you have the option to not discard a non-land card if you don't want to. If you just need to draw 2, but most of the time you're going to want to just discard a low drop or something that's not doing your hand, or a jumpstart card which you need to just get rid of and to be able to cast later. And yeah, no. I think Hypnothisizzle is real solid. I mean, I like drawing cards, and drawing cards at instant speed is nice, and killing creatures at instant speed is nice, so yeah. Very nice. Next up is Ionize. It's 1 blue and a red for an instant. Counter target spell. Ionize deals 2 damage to that spell's controller. I'm not a big fan of cancel effects in limited, but I think especially with if you're playing Izzet, you'll probably the amount of times Goblin Necromancer is common, this will often be blue-red counter target spell. And even if not 2 damage to that spell's controller is not nothing. Also the art is rad. But yeah, I'm real into this. Yeah, no, it's a counter spell of enough that I actually am willing to put into it for a 3 mana counter. And also the Izzet deck cares about your instant sorcery, so yeah. Next up is Justice Strike, which is red, white for an instant. Target creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. I mean, it's removal. It's situational removal, and you might have to sideboard out if you have if your opponents have just a bunch of big butts. But yeah, I mean, it's 2 mana instant removal that will kill a lot of stuff. Yeah, no, I could say there might be like a situation where this is dead in your hand and this is an unconditional removal, but it's efficient removal nonetheless. And it can kill things big and small, which is something that red at least has a little bit of a hard time doing. And instant speed, and cheap, all those things. Next up is League Guild Mage, which is red, white, or red, blue, 4/8/2/2. This is the Izzet Guild Mage. So at baseline, form a 2-mana 2/2. Yeah, it's a bear. But you may pay 3 and a blue, tap it, draw a card. I'm in. I am in. But you can also pay X red and tap it to copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. If you convert a mana cost X, you may choose new targets to that copy. Yeah. Now this one is real good. And I think it's kind of on par with the Dimir one. I mean, this isn't like the kind of like conditional removal like the Dimir one is, but the fact that, and this is one I'm also willing to splash in, especially in Boros, where like I may not have that much card draw, and this is just card draw on a stick, as well as like copying any removal spell you have and things like that. I'd be willing to go for this for Dimir, for just extra card draw and whatnot like that. And it's good at all stages in the game, so it's like I don't mind if I don't have the mana for it and whatnot. And yeah, no, I'm really into League Guild Mage. Also, it's like, she's cool. I really like that art. It's like one of the key, it's one of like the key art things they've done for the set. But real nice. But no, also real good. Okay, so Celestia card has snuck its way in there. I'll move that for the next episode. Next up is Legion Guild Mage. It's the other Guild Mage. It's red and a white for a 2/2. So, again, it's a 2/2. And it deals, you can pay 6 and tap it to have it deal 3 damage to each opponent. Okay, so it gives you some reach, which is honestly something that Boros wants in case it gets stuck. Or you can pay 2 and a white and tap it to tap another target creature. So this one is also just a real nice one. Like, I don't think it's quite on tier as like the Dimir one. That said, its tap ability is better, although its red ability is fine, but it's nothing amazing. But the fact that this can just like hold down a threat that's needed is real good and real nice and real useful. And the baseline being a 2/2 is real nice. I could see this. This is another one I could see like splashing for in either Izzet or Celestia, because it's like good at all stages in the game and it's removal and all that other stuff. It is a little awkward that you can't both like tap something down and block with it, so you don't like get that. But yeah, no, Legion Guild Mage, also real nice. Next up is Niv-Mizzet Peyrune, which is blue, 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 red, red, red. So that cost alone, you need fixing in your own colors. You need to be mono Izzet, preferably a fair amount of Izzet Go-Gates and maybe a few Izzet Lockets, because that is a demanding mana cost. A really demanding mana cost. But what do you get for this incredibly demanding mana cost? You get a 5/5 with flying that cannot be countered, and when you do draw a card, he does 1 damage to each target, and whenever a player, not you, a player, casts an instant or sorcery spell, you draw a card. Okay, it's very easy to say that this card is amazing, it's a great effect, but you need that fixing. Like, if you don't have a proper amount of fixing, I'm talking like 3 or more Izzet Guild-Gates, preferably few Lockets, maybe some other fixing. I don't really think there's much else in Izzet for fixing, but you need to have that. Otherwise, this will end up being just stuck in your hand, and it won't do anything. Like if you're able to pack one, pick one this thing, like good for you, great job. But you need to heavily prioritize that. Like, this is a spell that will win the game. Like, this is a creature that will like just do such a great time. Like, if they play your removals while they get rid of it, not only does it cycle itself at the bare minimum, it also pings something. And whenever you draw a card, you get to ping something. And there's lots of X1s in this format between tokens and just like things like that. And yeah, there's not much to say about like the power levels very high, but you need to have that fixing if you're gonna make this work. Cool new take on Izzet. Next up is his buddy, Izzet Viceroy, which is 3 blue and a red for a 5-mana planeswalker. With +1, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one in your hand and the other in your graveyard. Okay, +1, card draw, I'm in. Like, honestly, if any planeswalker like is just +1, it's like, that's card draw, card selection, fills your graveyard. Like, I'm into that, like, and that alone just pushes it so much over, like, Vraska. -3, deals damage to a creature equal to the total number of instant sorcery cards you own in exile and your graveyard. And the ultimate, which you really can't rely on, so you shouldn't really consider it when analyzing this thing, is -8, you get an emblem with, whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, this emblem deals 4 damage to any target and you draw 2 cards. Honestly, in Limited, I feel that like that -8 is actually kind of dangerous because like you can end up drawing just so many cards, and then you're like stuck unable to like cast your instant sorceries for risk of decking yourself. But that said, Ral is great. +1, like even if like you're splashing with this and don't have that many instant sorceries, you'll have some. It +1 is gonna dig through your deck to like that's just great. It's like it's a Seagate Oracle every turn. And the -3, obviously real nice. For just like, even if you only have like 2 instant sorceries into it, just being able to like bolt something when you need it. But at the base minimum, just being able to like draw an extra card every turn is just very good and very powerful. So Ral is definitely one I'd want to splash for. Next up is a classic. It's Sky Knight Legionnaire, which is 1 red and a white for a 2/2 with flying and haste. It's a very Boros card. I mean, it's good. You really don't want to splash for it because this is one that's like, you want it on turn 3, and like it's kind of the Boros plan. And honestly, when also like with Mentor, like 2 powers, not too hard to mentor up, and when you get bigger things in the air, it's yeah. It's Sky Knight Legionnaire. It's a good card. Next up is Sonic Assault, which is 1 blue and a red for an instant. Tap target creature. Sonic Assault deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. And you may jumpstart it. Okay, so it's like, it does a little bit to its face, it helps like prevent some damage, you can jumpstart it. I think this is a fine card if you want like instant sorceries to fill out your instant sorceries payoff cards. But that said, I just feel it's a bit expensive for what it does, and it doesn't do quite enough for like wanting it in another deck. That said, if you need to just have instant sorceries in your deck to like enable those things, it's fine. It helps slow down your opponent and also like kind of adds a little burn onto it. Like, so overall, Ace is like 4 damage between both castings, which is not nothing. So yeah, no. I don't mind it in Izzet deck, but I wouldn't run it outside of that. Next up is Swath Cutter Giant. This is a 4 red and a white for a 5/5 with vigilance. When Swath Cutter Giant attacks, it deals 1 damage to each creature your depending player controls. I've been calmed a bit down since my tirade when I talked about why does everyone hate Selesnya and tokens, and now this thing comes to me. Why? Are tokens really that scary? Everyone's scared of the Selesnya because we're the best, obviously. But that said, this is very good. Like, it's a 6 mana 5/5, which is fine. Like, 5/5 vigilance. Like, it's a little bit underrated, but not by much. And then just be able to like mow down anything, any X1s, and just reducing the power, like the toughness of anything else that's going there. That this thing is just a beating, and it'll just decimate any Celestia deck, and even the other decks is just gonna be, it's a hard time. Like, this is an amazing, like, the ideal kind of like top end of a Boros deck. So yeah, no, real nice. Boros doing Boros things. Next up is Swiftblade Vindicator, which is red and white for a 1/1 with double strike, vigilance, and trample. Okay, so this is one where you need to have Mentor and Mentor enablers. And okay, if you don't have Mentor enablers, you get a 1/1 double strike, vigilance, trample, which is not great. It's not unplayable, but it's just fine. But as soon as you could put any sort of counters on this thing is just starting to like go to town. And thus I wouldn't really run it outside of the Boros deck. You do want it on turn 2. But yeah, no, it's just, that can grow to be a problem very quickly, but you need to have the things to grow it into a problem. Next up is Tajik, Legion's Edge. He is a 1 red and white for a 3/2 with haste, mentor. Prevent all non-combat damage that we dealt to other creatures you control. And you pay a red and a white to give it first strike until the end of turn. I mean, there's not much to say. Like, this is amazing. Definitely worth splashing for in Celestia. Is it? I don't know. Like, is it? Like, it's still very good. Like, 3 mana 3/2 haste mentor. I'm into that. The fact that it prevents all non-combat damage or like blanks any sort of burn spell or anything on anything else. It's kind of like a Shalai-esque effect in some ways in Boros, and it not having first strike natively is just perfectly fine. Like, the threat of activation on that is what's key there. So it's like, you rarely, I think, will have to spend mana on that, but when you do, like it's mostly just because, oh, I left off red-white, now you can't attack me, and yeah, no. Tajik is, oh, that'd be so gross. Just like, imagine just like Swiftblade Vindicator 2, turn 3, Tajik, Lead of the Blades, Tajik attack, and with Vindicator, they both get mentor triggers. Oh, that's gross. But, Tajik, I don't know. But no, he's very good. He's like the pinnacle of a Boros 3-drop. Yeah, not much else to say about him though. He's just unambiguously good. A lot of the Boros cards are pretty straightforward to analyze. It's like, how good are they at beating face? Pretty good, like Tajik. Yeah, I think it'll be fine. Next up is 1,000-Year Storm, which is 4 blue and a red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it for each other sorcery spell you've cast this turn before this turn. You may choose new targets for the copy. Okay, so it's a 6-mana enchantment that kind of gives your instant sorceries pseudo-storm. I like it. It's real cool. I don't think it's good and limited. The fact that it's a 6-mana enchantment that does not affect the board state, and then requires you to have multiple instant sorceries to spells cast. Like, there are situations you could engineer where this is very good, but this definitely feels like a constructed card. It's cool. I like it. It's not good and limited. Don't run this. It's like, so it has both of these like really cool kind of like spellslinger enchantment things for which I'm like, these are really cool and constructed, not unlimited. Don't run them. Next up is the restrictive one of Boros, which is True Fire Captain, which is red, white for 4/3 with Mentor. Whenever it is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target player. This one I feel like is the weakest one of all of them, but of all the like restrictive ones. But I mean, it's still not bad if you're in that Boros deck. I think it's less of a pull to be in mono Boros than like the other ones are, like, because it's just not as good. But if you're in that mono Boros deck, like, it's a 4/3 Minter for 4. That's not bad. The thing is, it isn't as good if you don't have it on turn 4. And the fact that it will sometimes just like kind of like bolt your opponent's face, and like the fact that they can't effectively chump block it, kind of almost as like pseudo afflict in that way. But yeah, and like blocking this with like a big Celestia creature is real dangerous and things like. I've changed my mind. I rather like this card. I think it's great in the Boros deck. It gives you tons of reach. It's annoying to block. Like, if they have a removal spell for this, this will at least be a bolt to the face on the death, which is exactly what the Boros wants. I've talked myself out of this. I rather like this. This entire cycle, very well done. Good job, Wizards. And this is just exactly the thing that the Boros deck wants. Next up is We Dragonauts, which is 1 blue and a red for a 1/3 fairy wizard with flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, We Dragonauts gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. I think it's fine. I mean, a 3-mana 1/3 flyer isn't something I'm really interested in, but if you're in that Izzet Spellslinger deck, sometimes be able to like attack as like a 3/3 or sometimes even bigger, I think it's fine. And there's a fair number of flyers too that sometimes you just kind of want to have a flyer defensively, and this is not a bad one. Also, look at them, they're so cute. Aww, they're like little inventor fairies. They're so adorable. Aww. They're gonna stitch my eyes closed when I sleep, because that's what fairies do. Although that's more Lorwyn fairies than Izzet ones. These ones will just like rewire my heater so it like slowly bakes me alive in my sleep. So cute. Aww. Fresh-Faced Recruit, which is the 1 in hybrid Boros mana. So this can go into both the Selesnya and the Izzet deck, although I can't imagine the Izzet deck really wanting this. But it's a 2/1, so it's a piker. As long as it's turn, it is first strike. It's a fine 2-drop. It's nothing amazing. It is very aggressive. It's terrible on defense, but it's fine. Obviously, it's better in the Boros deck where you can like get it bigger, because first strike is actually scales really well with extra power. But yeah, no, it's a passable 2-drop. That's all I have to say. Next up is Piston Fist Cyclops, which is a 3-mana, so 3/1 Izzet for a defender. This isn't one that you really want in the Boros deck. This is really something only the Izzet deck wants. Like, honestly, most of the Izzet cards the Boros doesn't want to be splashing for. Like, if you're Boros, you might splash for some Celestia, like token makers and stuff like that, but you're not really wanting the Izzet stuff, which is fine. But it is a 4/3 with defender. So it's a 4/3 for 3 with defender that can attack as a Divinhev defender and typecast an instant sorcery. For the Izzet deck, I really like that. Like, even if it's coming down turn 3 to just like gum up the ground, which I think is real important in this format, given that you have to like at least a very aggressive Boros deck. Like, it helps you gum up the ground, and occasion like later on when you just need you just need a beat face, and that does it. Yeah, no, it isn't the most aggressive thing in the world. Like, you're not gonna be like swinging into this every turn, but you don't need to. This is still real solid. Now for the hard to read cards, we have Expansion and Explosion. Expansion is Izzet for an instant. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control of converted mana cost 4 or less. You may choose new targets for the copy. I mean, obviously you gotta like this is one you definitely want in that Spellslinger deck. But if you do, like, this can actually be really nice duplicating a removal spell or duplicating that. I could even see running that in Boros, and not Boros, in Dimir, for the Dimir deck, or not so much the Boros deck, because the Boros deck isn't running that many instant sorceries. You can't guarantee that, although the Dimir's deck is running a fair bit more. And then Explosion is X, blue, blue, red, red. So you're not going to be splashing for this other side. Like, unless you just want expansion, you're not going to be running this on a splash. But Explosion deals X damage to target any target, and target player draws X cards. If you're an Izzet, Explosion's amazing. Like, the fact that you have to get like X equals 5, deal 1 damage to target and draw a card, bad. But the fact that it's only X and not an XX spell means this scales beautifully very quickly. Like, for 6 mana, 2 damage to target and draw 2 cards, you know, I'm into that. I'm into like a shock stapled onto a divination. And then from there on, like 7 mana, which is getting up there. But the fact that it's a 7 mana, if as a 7 mana spell that's a draw 3 and bolt, like the fact that it doesn't have the drawback of a 7 mana spell, that if you need to just do it on 6 or 5, it's there. And the fact that it has a whole other split card, just great. Like, in the Izzet deck, this is just like your dream come true. But yeah. Next one is Integrity and Intervention. Integrity is a Boros, so hybrid red-white. For target creature, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. I think it's a fine in all 3 decks that would run it. Like, Boros, obviously, combat trick, it's a solid enough combat trick. And Celestia, it's a solid enough combat trick. And then Izzet, like, it's a combat trick as well as like enabling any instant sorcery shenanigans. But then Intervention is 2 red and a white. For Intervention, deals 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. So it's a little bit more expensive Lightning Helix, which is a good card. No, I like this. I mean, most of the time you probably want the Lightning Helix side, but you know, sometimes you just need a 1 mana combat trick, and honestly, having a combat trick if you need one, and a removal spell later on if you don't, is really where I want my combat tricks to be. Yeah, no, I think this is real good. Yeah, I really like this, even the splash. Next up is Invert and Invent. And Invert has day 0 errata, which is it blue red for switch the power and toughness of each of up to 2 target creatures until end of turn. They forgot the until end of turn portion. This is kind of like a super situational combat trick, which I'm not really into. So unless you want the other side, like, I wouldn't do this. Like, +2/+2. Hey, that's a combat trick. That is, I mean, all combat tricks are situational, but like, that applies to most situations. Like, +2/+2 will help in a given engagement. Invert is way more situational. Invent, on the other hand, is 4 blue and a red. For search your library for an instant and or sorcery card, put that into your hand, and then shuffle your library. So then it's a tutor. And instant speed. 6 mana is a lot for tutor. Like, Diabolical Tutor, not a card you want to run. 6 mana, definitely don't want to run that. And for an effect, the first one that I don't really want, just the flexibility of those two combined make me want this card. Not really. Not really at all. Yeah, sorry, I don't think this is a good card. It's just, the first half is way too situational, the second half is way too expensive for such little effect. So, no thank you, Invent and Invert. Next up is Response and Resurgence. Response is Boros. For a response, deals 5 damage to a target attacking or blocking creature. I mean, 2 mana for, whatchamacallit? Normally, Impeccable Timing is only deal 3 damage, which Impeccable Timing is fine, but 3 damage doesn't misses a lot of stuff. Not much misses a 5 damage strike, so this will usually end up being like a destroyed target attacking or blocking creature. I'm into that for all the decks that can run it. Resurgence is 3 red and a white. Creatures you control get first strike and vigilance in the middle of turn. After this main phase, there is an additional combat phase, and followed by an additional main phase. That's exactly the kind of thing that Boros deck wants. All their high power, low toughness creatures get first strike and vigilance and get to attack twice, and also like get like double mentor triggers and stuff like that. And the fact that you both want both sides in that deck, and honestly, I'd be fine with like wanting to like kind of like splash for Resurgence in a Selesnya deck too. Yeah, no, this is just a real good, because both sides are both effects you really want, and they both do a lot. And the benefit, I mentioned this other one, but like, if say I'm a Selesnya and like I have like 1 or 2 red sources, and it's like, if I don't draw my red source, I'm not sad. It's not like this card is dead in my hand. I can still cast white and kill an attacking or blocking creature, and that just eliminates a lot of the inherent risk in splashing. That said, when I do get that red source and I can cast Resurgence, it's such a great effect, and it makes me like it a lot. And that is it for Izzet and Boros. We'll just have one video after this, and I'll be after the long haul of this. Well, actually, I'll probably have one more video next week talking about kind of like my thoughts on this for Commander. As I said, I'll just do a dedicated video on that and talking about like the ones I'm highlighting and I'm excited about, because I didn't do that during this set review. But yeah, so let me know if you disagree with anything I want to say. I want to get better like this, just as like all of you. I say that every video. It feels like repetitive and like scripted, but oh well. Yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a wonderful night's sleep. And may your story smile upon you.